pot. He's the Prince of Pot.
I've been thinking about how badly the U.S. government wants to extradite me to their gulag, and how eager the Canadian government is, both under the Paul Martin Liberals and the Stephen Harper Conservatives, are to export me to that gulag. You know, there's 6,000 pages of correspondence out there, emails, phone calls, bureaucratic reports between the Canadian Ministry of Justice and the BC Solicitor General, Richard Coleman, who was Solicitor General from 2003 to 2005, the Vancouver Police Department under Chief Constable Jamie Graham, and the RCMP, and between all those Canadians and their U.S. counterparts in the U.S. Attorney General's Office of the Justice Department, the Bush White House drug czar John Walters, DEA head Karen Tandy, and various DEA offices throughout the United States and Canada. That's 6,000 pages, all marked classified, national security only, every single word blacked out on all 6,000 pages. Now, we know this because my lawyer spent 12 months pursuing a Freedom of Information request to find out how much collaboration had gone on between top Canadian officials and top U.S. officials in my extradition case. As you know from a previous podcast of Friday, November 13th, where there is a link to a video of retired Vancouver police officer Doug Lang saying that the Vancouver police, after failing to get me charged locally in 2003, gave their file to the U.S. DEA. From that point, the Vancouver Police Department, with the active participation of Chief Constable Jamie Graham, who actually boasted about his collaboration with the U.S. to me in a 2008 meeting, did legwork for the DEA office in Vancouver, and undercover officers from DEA came to our seed desk downtown and began buying seeds over the counter from us by mail. But 6,000 pages of top-secret confidential pages between top agencies of two governments is extraordinary collaboration for just one little person. That's a decade of spying, surveillance, eavesdropping, conspiring, and collusion by two governments to take out one Canadian who wanted to end the genocidal madness inflicted on 25 million Americans, 5 million Canadians, and millions of Mexicans, Colombians, Central and South Americans. That's 6,000 pages representing hundreds and hundreds of officials, police, spies, informer, DEA, RCMP, elected officials, cabinet departments using millions and millions of taxpayer dollars to put me in their gulag, to discredit my work and paint me as the Ho Chi Minh in America's drug war Vietnam. Now, what did I really do in those 15 years from 1990 to 2005? Well, for 10 years from 1995 to 2005, I sold cannabis seeds to consenting adults. With the money people sent me, I paid my suppliers, my advertising, and my employees, and I paid taxes on those sales, and gave away $4 million over 10 years to over 350 organizations, activists, political parties, marches, rallies, drug addiction clinics, court challenges, ballot initiatives, class action lawsuits, and so much more. You know what, I was thinking about it, so I wrote down a fraction of that huge list of things I put $4 million to. So here's a few of them. I gave $85,000 to the Canadian Supreme Court challenge from 1995 to 2003. That's what it took, 8 years, culminating in our 6-3 loss of the Supreme Court in December 2003. I gave $35,000 each year to finance the global marijuana marches from 1999 to 2005. That's $245,000 over 7 years. I gave $28,000 to a class action suit against the U.S. federal government in 1999 out of Philadelphia. We were trying to reinstate the compassionate use cannabis program. We brought in 80 medical users from across America to Philadelphia to testify and put them up in hotels. We paid for the transportation and the hotel costs and legal fees in that class action suit. We gave $205,000 to finance the Iboga Therapy House in British Columbia. And we treated 65 hardcore drug addicts from 2002 to 2004 at an average cost per patient of $4,000 each. We didn't ever charge them a dime, using ibogaine hydrochloride. You know, I was the head facilitator there, and ibogaine hydrochloride was just shown last night on an episode of Law & Order, SVU, in a completely factual light that shows them that ibogaine cures drug addiction and stops drug craving and drug withdrawal. I was one of the earliest pioneers of its use in North America, and now, 7 years later, it's finally penetrating the mainstream media in positive ways. I gave $15,000 to defend the Vancouver Island Compassion Club when it was raided by Victoria Police in 2003. I paid $5,000 to get petitioning done for the successful 1998 Washington, D.C. medical marijuana ballot initiative that finally became law only last year. I gave $10,000 to the 2000 Arizona medical marijuana ballot initiative. I gave $14,000 to the 2000, 2002, and 2004 Alaska marijuana legalization initiatives. And I gave $5,000 to the Colorado medical marijuana initiative in 2002. I gave $6,000 to the New Zealand Legalized Cannabis Party newspaper advertising in their 1999 election. And I gave $3,000 to the Israeli marijuana party called the Green Leaf Party for their 2003 election campaign. I gave $152,000 to the BC Marijuana Party in 2001 to finance their massive 79-candidate full-slate provincial election campaign. To this day, I remain the largest donor to a political party cause in the history of British Columbia. I gave $35,000 to the year 2000 Canadian Marijuana Party campaign across Canada. I gave $8,000 to promote the NDP campaign in 2004, as Jack Layton had promised to promote an end to marijuana prohibition, and we were fully behind him. We gave $10,000 to finance an anti-prohibition march in London, England in 2002. We gave $2,000 to a South African campaign for hemp houses for the homeless in 2002. We gave $30,000 to launch the U.S. Marijuana Party from 2003 to 2004. We paid $3,500 to send observers to Colombia to interview farmers victimized by the aerial spraying under the U.S.-sponsored Plan Colombia. We gave $5,000 to the Nimbin Mardi Gras in Australia in 2002. We gave $5,000 to sponsor an Arab-Israeli peace conference in Jerusalem in 2006. And we gave $15,000 in 1998 to get the Marijuana Policy Project off the ground before they had their millionaire sponsors that they have now. There were over 350 separate projects like those that I contributed up to $4 million in total from 1994 to 2006. With all that money I kept, I put out 74 issues of over 15 years of the best truth-telling magazine about cannabis that ever was, Cannabis Culture Magazine. Among our journalism was an in-person interview with Evo Morales, now the president of Bolivia, when he was the head of the Coca Farmers Union in 2002. We interviewed witnesses to the destruction of the Putayama Basin in Colombia from Plan Colombia's U.S. pesticidal spraying. I used our earnings to put out 3,000 videos on the first cannabis video streaming website in the world, Pot TV, 6 years before YouTube, at a cost of $1 million from the year 2000 to 2006. Video streaming in those days got up to $12,000, $15,000 a month for such pioneering technology. I used our earnings to fund and finance the BC Marijuana Party, fielding a full slate of 79 candidates in the 2001 BC election campaign. I paid for the 2000 Canadian Marijuana Party election campaign. I paid for lawyers all over North America to defend medical marijuana dispensaries in Victoria, BC, London, Ontario, Toronto, Ontario, St. John, New Brunswick, California, Washington State, and Oregon. I pioneered the most widespread research into cannabis genetics that had ever been attempted in modern times, creating a pool of cannabis genetics that has to this day been a great legacy to our cannabis culture all over the world. Our website, CannabisCulture.com, has always been one of the movement's chief sources of inspiration and activism. I have mentored and inspired many of the world's most successful cannabis activists, Dana Larson, David Malmo-Levine, Mason Tvert, Loretta Knoll, Barry Cooper, and so many others. I pioneered the Cannabis Cafe in 1997, an all-hemp food cafe with vaporizers at every table to vaporize cannabis, the first of their kind. What I did was tell the truth loudly and urge thousands of people to think for themselves, get out to vote, be nonviolent and committed to the defense of liberty, march for our cause, pass ballot initiatives, provide a political voice for our movement, a media voice, and leave a genetic legacy that to this day is why California has such a staggering array of cannabis strains, a 20-year resume of activism and achievement that is simply unequaled by any other single